Hello, my name is Willie Wisely, and welcome to Watercolor Editions, a music podcast that takes you deep inside my series of new acoustic singles, celebrating 40 years of being a songwriter. Recording songs from my catalog has brought memories flooding back as to what inspired each one, and I want to share those recollections with you as we play the new Watercolor Editions version and then the original studio version and chat it all down. So now sit back and let me paint a picture for you. So I had this idea to write a song about a cheating girl, from the point of view of someone who's spurned and angry. There actually hadn't been any of those type of people in my life, at least that I know of. This was what I would call a heartbreak fantasy. So I wrote the first draft of Go, and I did it on an East Coast tour in January of 1995. When I got home from tour, starting in February, I'd been scheduling some of my first co-writing sessions ever with my buddy Benno Nelson, still one of my dearest friends. And in between learning the ropes and risks and battered ego moments of writing with a partner, at one of our sessions, I said, "Hey, I have this new song, can I sing it for you?" And it was Go, constructed of a set of cascading chords, lots of chords, with each of 3 choruses ending in different syncopated ways with different hits and notes. For all the song's fussiness and complication, it was truly an immediately likable song. So I played it for Benno, and, his opinion meant a lot to me, and I was ecstatic that he dug it. What I wasn't sure about, though, even after he left, was the lyric. Like, the spurned, angry guy was just not a character I was playing at that point, and it just didn't feel honest. The opening line went something like this: "Well, thanks for the sage opinions. Now tell me something I don't know. And once you're finished bitchin', go." I said, "Go." I said, "Go." I'm like, God, that's so mean. I wasn't comfortable with that. And my other doubt about the song was the chorus, the payoff. All I'm doing is saying the word go over and over again, and that seemed kind of lame. Like, I needed a richer concept. And besides all that, it just felt lame because the replacement song of the same name is so frickin' awesome. So Benno left my apartment after the session in Dinkytown, which, by the way, I lived exactly 2 doors down from Blackberry Way Studios, where the Replacements had recorded Go, their Go, in 1982. But after Benno left, I rewrote the lyric to be something more involved. I just was not feeling comfortable with the existing lyric. So I came up with this concept. An ex-girlfriend, she'd left me, then mailed me an invitation to her wedding, but with my name misspelled. And it would be called "Send My Regrets." Now, her invite, everything about it would be a betrayal of the girl that I knew and the love that I thought we shared. 1, I had asked her to marry me, and she turned me down. 2, she was always a devout atheist, if there is such a thing. But her invitation to the wedding was God this and church that and holy matrimony, blah, blah, blah. And the final betrayal was I find out that she was already pregnant with her kid with this other guy before we had even broken up. So the song would marvel at her audacity of inviting me to their wedding. So the concept was complex, hard to squeeze into a short up-tempo number with, only room for a few syllables per lyric line. But I chugged on because actually nearly everything in that story was autobiographical, and I felt it was honest. So at my next session with Benno, I sang it to him again, but now with the improved lyric. "You once waxed atheistic. How quickly one forgets not to be married by a cleric. Send my regrets, I won't show, no, no, no." And the first thing out of Benno's mouth was, what was wrong with the old lyrics? So I plied him for why he asked. "Well, I can't really understand the story, and maybe you should just keep it simple and follow your original instinct?" And with that feather punch, I was sent back to my original lyrics and considered the song done. That spring, a couple months later, I played a solo gig, and Benno and I had booked a gig at, I think, a place called The Front in Northeast Minneapolis. And it was a new venue. They were struggling to get good acts in. So I thought we'd bring a bunch of our pals over there and book a show. And it was Benno's band, National Dynamite, and our dear friends Rex Daisy, which was headed by genius songwriter Mike Rickberg. And it was there that I debuted Go solo. I was between bands. My Willie Wisely trio had collapsed, and I hadn't yet started working with John Fields on my next album. So I played the song solo, and I remember it coming off as really something kind of special. And Mike and Benno were super complimentary. And I remember suggesting to Mike that Rex Daisy should actually cover it and add it to their repertoire. I thought it was a perfect song for them. That said, the night felt really fun among friends, and I was super proud of the new song. And I'll bet you it sounded a little something like the new Watercolor version of Go, which I'd love to play for you right now. So paint a picture for us, Willie.
Sage opinions. Now tell me something I don't know. And once you're finished bitching, go. I said go. I said go. Go, go, go. Don't wait for invitations. I said go, go, go.
That was Go, the 8th in my year-long series of acoustic singles, celebrating 40 years a songwriter. Now, there's a truly disgusting origin story to Go that I sort of glanced over earlier in the podcast, and it comes with this subtle ironic twist that really only dawned on me as I prepared for this podcast. As I'd mentioned, I wrote the song on an East Coast tour, and there was a big stopover in New York planned. My attorney at the time, Robert Goldstein, would suggest these harebrained trips to each coast, to Los Angeles and New York, so that I could meet and play for A&R guys at the major labels. These trips would cost me a fortune, flying he and I out, hotel rooms when normally I'd sleep on couches for free, and then he'd get drunk on my tab, and I'd have to feed us, but all the while, I'd be the one making the calls and lining up our appointments from the hotel room phones using his name with me pretending to be his assistant. This was our plan, to break through the receptionists on the phone and confirm these appointments that Bob told me he'd booked, which he really never booked at all. It was a bunch of BS. Our relationship was the height of codependency. Anyway, he played out this story with several other Minneapolis artists of the era, and a lot of those artists had less tenacity than I would to get on the phone or push myself into a room with Robert. But I suffered Bob, because codependency is something I know very well. I actually found him kind of amusing, if ineffectual. And of course, he was full of big city bullshit, in which I actually found some gems, some of which were fully applicable life lessons for once I would land in LA 5 years later and start my life there for 18 years. So for all Bob's crap, he would say things that were pretty unforgettable. My favorite is this. Okay, Mr. Wisely, my dear client, here is the universal fun quotient. And he'd wave his arms in this huge circle. This is all the fun there is in the universe, a pie chart. And then he'd say, while taking his arm, starting like at 12 noon, he'd wave it all the way around, completely around the imaginary clock until about 5 minutes to midnight and say, that is how much fun the Beatles had. Then, like with a pinch of daylight between his thumb and his forefinger, and behind there just his googly bespectacled eye, he'd say, and this is how much the Rolling Stones had. And then in an even smaller sliver, he'd widen his eyeballs and crunch his forehead and say, and this is what's left for you and me. I think this was his way of saying, nothing enjoyable will come from your misadventures with me. And he was right. Whether he realized it or not, he burned so many people, got disbarred. It was really got difficult to be around him because he wouldn't take blame for anything. In subsequent years, he fell out of a bed and shattered a bunch of upper vertebrae on the bedside table. Then he spent like a year or two in a head brace with screws sticking out of his skull, and then a few years later mysteriously died. I should call my friend Lisa Wooster. She was also a client of his. I wonder if she knocked him off. Lisa, we know what lurks below your patina of gentle grace. A killer. So in January of 1995, I'm in New York City on a tour. I'm half in town for these gigs, but also mostly to visit these record labels and publishers in search of the elusive big deal with Bob. Now, on a day where supposedly Bob was going to land and rent a car and then drive into town so that we could have meetings, I couldn't reach him. This was before cell phones. He'd wind up arriving days later, probably recovering from some bender. But the upside was this opened up some time in New York for me to write and concentrate on my shows. I had been crashing at my girlfriend's friend's apartment, who had a 300 square foot one-room place that I seem to recall being on the Upper East Side. It was so small that she couldn't even fit a couch in it to crash on, nor even room on the floor. So the plan was for me and Maria to just share a bed. Now, my girlfriend back in Minneapolis, Carrie, she was actually totally okay with this because, one, Maria was her best friend, and Maria had recently decamped to New York City from the Twin Cities for school or a job or something, and she just trusted the both of us, and we had spent a ton of time together over the last few years. And two, Carrie also knew that Maria and I were made completely of different cloth. Maria had this sort of unimpressed super bitch thing that, you know, like completely baffled my golden retriever eager to please deal. So to me, she was this incredibly scary person, even though she was like 7 years younger than me. And worst of all, she could not be cracked with a joke. You'd just be greeted by this barely eye roll of disapproval thing. So even sharing a small futon mattress, it wouldn't be personality differences that would keep any philandering from happening. And this is deigning the thought that Maria even gave 2 cents about me, which I'm certain she didn't, because there was a problem. It was something in the air. Literally something in the air. You see, I'd had a show that evening, maybe at Brownie's in the Village, I think, and I'd gone out late afterwards to a bodega, and I'd eaten this enormous styrofoam of buffet food, the stuff that had been sitting there all day on the warming trays. And within a couple hours, while trying to sleep next to Maria, who had to work or go to school in the morning, my guts were blowing up like balloons. And I'm trying, but not succeeding, to hold all this gas in as I lay next to my girlfriend's grumpy best friend, just constantly darting to her bathroom, which is all but 8 feet away from the bed, to release all the pressure coming out one end or the other of me, with great audible fanfare. So it was easily and remains the most embarrassing night of my entire life. The next morning, as Maria prepared to go to work, while I laid constipated in agony, pretending to sleep, praying that she'd just leave immediately, fully aware that her entire apartment smelled like my bowels. I just wanted to be alone. And it was in this condition, after she left, that I sat in her apartment all day with my Gibson 125 TD. It was a sunny afternoon, I remember, and I wrote the chords to Go, thinking how awesome this descending chord felt on my fingers, and writing these dismissive lyrics and singing this chorus over and over again, wailing, without any irony known at the time. Go, I said go, I said go, 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 go. Wishful thinking, right? Because I couldn't go at all. And the next 2 days, I'd be doing long walks to Harlem and back with the feeling of knives sticking into my guts, just trying to move things along and not foul the air in Maria's place. Poor girl. I don't think I ever spoke to her again. So there. Now you have it. I've associated probably my most beloved fan favorite power pop song with this indelible gastrointestinal onslaught. You may never want to hear the song again, right? But hey, while I have your attention and while things are moving along, I'll play for you the original studio version of Go from my 1996 album She, produced by John Strawberry Fields. And stick around afterwards and I'll tell you all about the recording session. Paint a picture for us, Willie.
Well, thanks for the sage opinions. Now tell me something I don't know. And once you're finished bitching, go. I said go. Go, 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 go. Don't wait for invitations. I said go, go, go. Well, God gave the woman instinct, but how's he supposed to know that you'd smudge it up like lipstick? Go, I said go, I said go, 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 go. Don't wait for divine intervention. I said go, go, go. Is it the way he loves now? Is it the way he loves now? Children, is it the way he loves now? You might leave here graciously, or you could make the show. But either way, your history. Go, I said go. Go, 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 go. Don't wait for standing ovations. Go, I said go. I said go, 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 go. Keep broken obligations. Now I said go, go, go.
That was Go from my 1996 album She, produced by John Strawberry Fields, released on October Records. And that track did pretty well on college radio, and the label actually sunk some coin into promotion. They assigned staff to it and ad buys, and it got great reviews too, and the release really put me on the map, and even led to my Big in Japan years. But that's another episode. Let's talk about the recording of Go. First of all, compositionally, the first two chords of Go were absolutely stolen from the Beatles' Things We Said Today. That song has always fascinated me. It's got this really odd chord progression, and it's not one of their greatest songs, but from a writer's point of view, it's one of Paul's most genius constructions. But hey, there's a genius in stealing too, right? And I did. But I changed the second chord slightly from a minor to a major, and by the time I got to strumming that, the rest of the song just flowed right out of me. So I played the demo for producer John Strawberry Fields, and we had started recording the She album in December of 1995. And now it was January of 96, and we'd pretty much established a mode of working that was very forward-thinking to the digital era. We were recording on tape, but it involved syncing tape to digital machines and using a lot of samples. Now, Go would actually be the last song that we would record for the album, and we started work on January 29th, and though last, it would not be least because it wound up being the lead track and the emphasis single at radio for the album. Our well-oiled recording process was to lay down like this very intense jungle-esque click track with lots of funky noises going on, and then put down a drum loop to it, and then fly in a bunch of samples that we'd ripped off randomly from our record collections and find inspiration and all that. So the studio was strewn with vinyl, and we were just having a blast with found sounds. Notably, there's an XTC sound in there somewhere. Good luck finding it. And now first, John cut me playing acoustic guitar, and then he added a bass, and then I added a lead vocal, and then he cleverly very speeded the tape slightly and had me overdub a second acoustic guitar, but with the tape at a different speed, which made the two acoustic guitars slightly out of pitch from each other, which makes them really shimmer and pop out. Then, memorably, we brought out our label head, Steven Greenberg of Lip Sync fame, Funkytown, right? He was the dude who wrote and produced and played on Funkytown, the huge hit. And he came in, terrific drummer, he came in to my session and overdubbed real drums on Go. And then I think John also stole a sample from Funkytown, the cowbells, and put them on Go too. So, shh, don't tell anybody. John finally added a spin-it piano that was out in the hallway, and we were done. Now, I have a video of this whole session, and it's shot by Steven and the label manager, Tommy Romarsik. And if I post it somewhere, I'll be sure to share the link in the description. It's totally a time capsule for sure. The recording was immediately everyone's favorite for the record, and it became quickly the core to my live shows as well. And by the time I put my touring band together, the She Band, as I called them, including Chris Lakey on the drums, Jim Weber on lead guitar and keyboards and sampler, on an early sampler, actually. We were running samples on live shows in 1996. And then John Guion on bass, and Craig Hollitz would play bass too. Go was always pivotal in our set, and it was certainly instrumental in advancing us in a national live band contest to the final Grammy showcase on the Sunset Strip in Hollywood. This was in 1997, and we closed with this great unbridled version of Go, which I have video of. If I edit it down, I'll also put the link in the descriptions, but in the meantime, I would like to play it for you. And here it is, the live version of Go with my She Band at the 1997 Grammy Showcase at Billboard Live in Hollywood, California. Paint a picture for us, guys.
Well, thanks for the sage opinions. Now tell me something I don't know. And what's your finished
That was Go at the Grammy Showcase in Hollywood, Billboard Live on the Sunset Strip, 1997. We didn't wind up winning the contest. We came in like second, I guess, and we lost to some punky ska band I can't remember. The final thing I want to point out about the song Go is a video. It's of me and Mike Rickberg, the leader of Rex Daisy, singing the song backstage with Japanese superstar Shigeru. He's from the band Karuli. They're huge in Japan. Now, Mike had come with me on this Japanese tour as a multi-instrumentalist, and I just think it's funny that 10 years and halfway around the world from our old gig in Northeast Minneapolis, where I'd suggested that he add Go to his set, that the three of us are sitting here singing Go together in a dressing room, and it's just a delightful version. And knowing that the unassuming Shigeru is there, who roundly credits my She album with inspiring his entire music career, it makes the scene all the sweeter. Link is in the description. Be sure to catch the video. Well, that's just about the final stroke for this episode of Watercolor Editions. And hey, big thanks to everyone mentioned in this episode. Not one of you played anything less than an enormous part in this time of my life, full of personal breakthroughs, both creatively and in terms of reaching new audiences. Be sure to catch other episodes of Watercolor Edition featuring my songs Flowers for the Lady, Cracked World View, True, Rain Can, Face the Sun, Parador, I'll Be Singing. Oh my God, there's tons of them. And there's many more to come. They drop every other Wednesday until either you or I can't take it no more. But know this, there's about 296 songs yet to go. CDs of the album She are available at my Bandcamp page. Link is in the description, along with an array of cassettes, t-shirts, and vinyl too. And lastly, hit that subscribe button, and don't miss the next Watercolor Edition when we'll put my song, The Queen of Alphabet Avenue, up on the easel. It's a song that I wrote just a few months ago. It's unreleased, and it's about the LGBTQ human rights icon Marsha P. Johnson, who died under very mysterious circumstances in the 90s. We'll paint that watercolor picture, play some music, and chat it all down again on Watercolor Editions. I'm Willie Wisely, and thanks for listening.